I always believed love was stronger than money. Stronger than property, land, titles, or the numbers in a bank account. And at 70 years old, I thought I had lived long enough to understand the meaning of family. I was wrong. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're listening from. We'd love to know how far this story is reaching. My name is Robert Walker. I live in a quiet part of Manchester, New Hampshire. A modest home. A worn-out armchair that squeaks when I sit. And a heart that used to beat a little faster every time my son James called. James is 38. Married to a girl named Kelly. She's sharp, confident, the type that always knows what she wants. I never had much of an opinion about her, until I started noticing something. My calls became shorter. My visits were met with polite smiles but cold eyes. My birthday came and went with just a text message. "Happy birthday, Dad." That was it. Still, I told myself, they're busy. Young people these days are always chasing something. A career, a dream, time. Maybe I was just part of the old world they didn't have time for anymore. I had given James almost everything over the years. Paid for his college. Helped with the down payment on his first house. And more recently, signed over most of my land and savings to him. Because why not? I didn't need much anymore. My body was slowing down, my mind wasn't as sharp. But my heart still believed in him. The only thing left in my name was the house. And even that was half his, legally. Then, one evening, everything changed. I was reading in bed when my phone buzzed. It was a call from James. I picked up and said hello, but no one replied. Just background noise. I almost hung up, until I heard his voice. He was talking to Kelly. "Once the house is fully ours," James said, "we'll move Dad out. It's just too much having him here. He's old. He doesn't need this place anymore." Kelly replied coldly, "We'll put him in assisted living. He won't even know what's happening. I'll find a place by the end of the month." My hand trembled. James laughed. "He practically gave us everything anyway. One last push, and it's done." My chest tightened. I could barely breathe. They didn't know I was on the line. That I heard every single word. My son. My blood. Plotting to throw me out of the home I built with my own hands. I hung up. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there, staring at the wall, like a man who just watched his world collapse without warning. That night I didn't sleep. The next morning, I put on my sweater, made a cup of tea, and sat in the sunroom. The very room where James used to play with his toy cars. The room where he took his first steps. And I made a decision. If betrayal was the language they spoke, I would answer in the same tongue. But smarter. Quieter. Older doesn't mean weaker. It means wiser. The thing about growing old is people forget you were once sharp. Once quick. Once dangerous if needed. James must have thought I was just a fragile old man, sipping tea and watching birds. But I wasn't done living, and I sure as hell wasn't done thinking. I spent the next few days pretending nothing happened. I called James. "Son," I said gently, "I've been thinking. Maybe it's time I gave you the rest of the house." There was a long pause. Then came the excitement in his voice, too fast, too eager. "Are you serious, Dad?" "Dead serious," I said with a chuckle. "What use do I have for it now? You have a family. This should be your home." He told me he'd talk to Kelly and call me back. Within an hour, he was at my door, arms wide open like the betrayal I heard never existed. Kelly followed, all smiles and sugar-coated words. They sat at the kitchen table, and suddenly I was being called Dad again, not him, or the old man. I smiled and nodded. "I'll call my lawyer. We'll do it right." But I didn't call my lawyer. I called Emily, a friend from my old church group. She's smart, works with legal aid, and has a soft spot for the elderly. I told her everything. Every word I overheard. Every plan they were making. She didn't flinch. We'll make sure the papers look like they're transferring the house to James, but in truth, they won't be. My heart beat faster. We crafted the documents carefully. The signatures would be real. The page would look ordinary. But the fine print, the true heart of it, would place the house fully into the hands of a trust. One that donated the land to a senior care foundation, but only after my death. Until then, I retained full legal control. They couldn't touch it. Not a brick. But James, he didn't read anything. He just signed. Fast. Greedy. Like he couldn't wait to have it all. I pretended to sign as well, and I did, but what I signed wasn't ownership to him. It was protection from him. And then came the cherry on top. I told him I had $150,000 saved in my account, left over from the house sale and old investments. And I said, I was ready to give it to him, too. Kelly's eyes gleamed. James nearly jumped from his seat. Why don't you two go home for a few days? I said sweetly. I'll get the documents arranged, the transfer, everything. And when you come back, it'll all be yours. They left smiling, hugging me, saying, You're the best, Dad. I watched their car pull away. I stood at the doorway. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled. Because I wasn't broken anymore. I was just getting started. 3 days passed. Long, quiet days, the kind that whisper to you as you sip your coffee, reminding you of everything you once were, and everything you've become. I walked around the house with slow steps. Touched the walls. Ran my fingers over the photographs still hanging in the hallway. Me holding James when he was just a baby. His tiny hand wrapped around my thumb. That little hand had now turned into a fist behind my back. I wasn't doing this out of hatred. I wasn't even doing it for revenge, not entirely. I was doing it to protect myself. To teach a lesson. One that only life can teach, if you're listening. When James and Kelly returned on Friday, they brought champagne. They walked in like royalty returning to their castle. Dad, James said cheerfully, we're ready! I reached into my pocket and took out my phone. I tapped play. James's voice filled the room. Once the house is fully ours, we'll move Dad out. Kelly's voice followed. We'll put him in assisted living. He won't even know what's happening. Their words. Every single one. Clear as crystal. Kelly's face turned white. James was frozen. You forgot one thing, James, I said, leaning forward. You called me by mistake. And I heard everything. I recorded it. He tried to speak, but no words came. I stood up slowly. I gave you everything. Not because I was weak, but because I believed in you. I trusted you. And you tried to turn me into a burden. Tears burned at the edges of my eyes. I'm not your burden, son. I'm your father. James dropped the file. Kelly stormed out. He stood there, fists clenched, face red with embarrassment and fury. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I hope one day you understand, I said quietly. Betrayal is not answered with screaming or violence. It's answered with silence, dignity, and a signed piece of paper. He left without saying a word. I stood at the window, watching the car drive off again, but this time, there was no weight in my chest. Just peace. The days after James left were quiet, but not the kind of quiet that hurts. It was peaceful. Free. Like I'd finally exhaled after holding my breath for too long. I sat in my old armchair with a cup of warm chamomile and let the sunlight pour over my skin. The birds still came to the window. The floor still creaked in the same old spot near the stairs. Nothing had changed, except me. And that made all the difference. James didn't call. Kelly didn't write. I figured they were too embarrassed, too angry, too caught in their own mess to reach out. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't chase after them. Didn't beg for love like some broken old man afraid of dying alone. Because I wasn't alone. I had me. And I finally remembered how much that was worth. A few neighbors dropped by. Some friends from the church brought pie and smiles. Emily called every other day, just to check in, and I told her the same thing each time. I'm doing better now. 1 week later, there was a knock at the door. It was James. He looked older than before. Tired. Hair messy. Shoulders slumped. For a long second, we just stared at each other. Then he spoke. Dad? I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. Just stepped aside and let him in. We sat at the table, the same one where he once reached for the world with greedy hands. But now, his hands trembled. I don't know why I let Kelly talk me into it, he whispered. Maybe I was angry. Maybe I just wanted to feel like I had control over something. He looked down. I was wrong. You didn't deserve that. I nodded. I know. We sat in silence. The weight of everything we didn't say filled the room. Then, I placed the same phone in front of him. You hurt me, I said. More than I can explain. But I forgive you. Not because you asked, but because I need peace. His eyes welled up. I don't expect anything from you anymore. I just wanted you to know I regret it. I stood up, walked to the drawer, and pulled out a small envelope. Inside it was a photo of him as a kid, sitting on my shoulders, smiling so wide the sun could have mistaken him for its own. I placed it on the table. You were my pride, I said softly. Still are. But trust, that takes time. And now, it's your turn to earn it. He nodded, slowly. And then he left. Did we fix everything that day? No. But sometimes, healing isn't a moment. It's a season. A quiet stretch of time where something old becomes new again. I'm still here. Still in my home. Still watching the birds come and go. And every now and then, James sends me a letter. Not asking for anything. Just telling me about his day. And I write back. Because even after betrayal, some bridges can be rebuilt, brick by honest brick. But this time, the foundation is mine. And my name still hangs on the door.